Hello, my name is Otto Gomez. This is going to be my explanation of my activity. I wasn't able to find a way to load the document. It was only asking for a web URL. So I figured if I record it with the presentation in the background, hopefully that meets the intent. So this is my explanation of the activity presentation. Um, my activity is going to cover the question, why did people join the Texas Revolution? This covers the social studies TEKS for grade 7 for Texas history, as well as the English language art TEKS for students to be able to read and analyze informational text. So the historical topic is the Texas Revolution. We're going to analyze authentic primary sources related to the siege of the Alamo and then the movement for Texas independence. Then it's going to focus on how people use words, symbols, and public messages to persuade others to rally behind their cause. The essential question is going to be, how did primary sources persuade people to support Texas independence during the American Revolution? So the purpose of the activity is to help students develop their critical thinking and analytical skills. They're going to move beyond just memorizing facts about Texas history and actually put themselves and to think like historians. They're going to analyze these primary sources and evaluate how the historical figures communicated the urgency, justified the political action, and attempted to persuade others. It's going to go into the support for both the social studies and the English language arts goals by requiring the students to ask questions, read closely, infer meanings, discuss interpretations, and write the evidence-based arguments. So for this assignment, it's going to require for each of the primary sources to be printed out and handed to the students. And then the students are going to be encouraged to annotate notes on their printout of any keyword, maybe use highlighters, highlight anything, make notes on the side so that they can use those notes to answer the question at the end. So for primary sources, I chose Colonel Travis's letter, Victory or Death, also the Texas Declaration of Independence, and the publication by a second letter by Colonel Travis in the Telegraph and Texas Registry. It was dated March 24th, but the letter itself was dated March 3rd. So here are the student inquiry questions. Things they got to think about as they're reading it is, who created the source and what was the intended audience? Identify any words or phrases that are used to persuade readers. What emotions or ideas that each source is appealed to? What problems or concerns are described in the sources? How did the sources support or complicate what we know about the Texas Revolution? And which source would have been most persuasive to people living in Texas in 1836 and why? So the students are going to identify any loaded language, the author's purpose, the intended audience, the tone, the claim of each source. And they also use text evidence to make inferences about historical context and persuasion. So the writing activity, the students are going to have to write a one-page paragraph of historical argument for the following question, which is, which primary source would have been the most effective in persuading people to support the Texas independence? With the writing assignments, the key things they need to answer is make sure they have a clear claim, which one it is, have two pieces of evidence from that source to back up their claim, and explain how the evidence supports that claim. So accommodation and modifications. So any students that need additional assistance, we can print the material with key vocabulary highlighted and defined in the margins, like beeves. Beeves is explained in the original letter from Colonel Travis. Many students may not know that beeves refers to cattle or heads of cattle. So keywords like that for phrases used back in those days that students might not understand would be helpful. We could offer them STEM sentences to help lead the students to the path that we want them to get to think. So like the author wants to read it to, and one phrase that shows the persuasion is, just lead them to that answer. The following also allow the students to listen to the text read to them. They could follow along. That might help more auditory learners. Uh, they could partner up in small groups and work on it in a small group. Uh, Sometimes more than one head can help analyze things, and they can bounce ideas from each other for those who do need that additional support. And then provide a graphic organizer with the columns so the students can be able to, as they're reading, put their notes into the source, the author, the audience, the persuasive words, and the evidence to help them at the end key those in for their writing assignment. And this concludes my presentation.